Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Basics, which is a very, very strained phrase that I love using all the time. I am still Pastor Don, and I am still joined by Courtney, who just can't seem to get rid of me. Hi, everybody.
Soon.
So we are picking up.
Kidding, we're friends.
We're picking up from where we left off last week in Genesis chapter 26. We stopped at the end of verse 16. We are going to kick right off with verse 17 after Isaac got the big old GTFO from our good friend Abe. That's Abimelech for those of you who are playing the home game.
Yeah, last time on Bible Ball Z, Abimelech was like, I've seen this shit before.
Seen this, caught the sequel, don't need a trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the greatest crossover event in history is you crossing the heck out of here.
Right. Let me get
So
up here.
let's go ahead and let's just dive right in and try to knock the rest of this one off. So we're going to pick up from verse 17 for those of you reading along at home. So I'm going to start reading, and in our usual way, you're going to hurl digital produce at me every time you want me to stop. I think the last one we had was green beans, so I'm eager to see what's coming up next.
We should see what pops up next. We should just start editing them on the screen. Anyway.
Oh God, don't add to my editing load. Anyway, so from verse 17. So Isaac departed from there and camped in the Wadi Gerar and settled there. Isaac dug again the wells of water that had been dug in the days of his father Abraham, for the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham, and he gave them the names that his father had given them. But when Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found there a well of spring water, the herders of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herders, saying, "This water is ours." So he called the well Esek, because they contended with it. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over that one also. So he called it Sinta. He moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. So he called it Rehoboth, saying, "Now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land."
Okay. So
sounds like a green pepper.
Yeah, carrots. Wait. So is this just, again, second verse, same as the first, like he shows up somewhere and like, this is my spot. I live here now. I'm going to do what I want to this land. And people are like, no, we're already here, dude.
Yeah, more or less, like standard nomadic quarrels. I mean, it does say here that Isaac shows up, digs the well, and then the locals are like, this is ours. So there is some room for questioning here as to whether he's digging wells in other people's territory, or whether these are competing nomads in the area that are just fighting over shit, which does happen also.
Well, and it sounds like they, like all the old wells, he just dug back up and renamed them.
Right.
And then, because it says when they dug in the valley and found there a well of spring water, which seems to imply this is a new one.
Mm-hmm. Now, again, without bringing the Hebrew up to see if there's a verbiage difference here, it's possible that this could be a literal spring of water that sprouted up in the desert that might not be a dug well. I don't think that's the case, but it's possible. Suffice it to say, truth be told, it doesn't really matter all that much. This is just kind of filler episode crap, to keep our DBZ theme going. He's moving out from the land of the Philistines, but he's continuing the kind of combative nature of things that had been happening so far until he finds a place where he can dig his own well. And
is this just standard operating procedure?
Yeah, more or less.
Like tribes at this point.
When you're dealing with,
I know at this point we're getting into like anthropology and like
in the Old Testament nomads, this was kind of the way to go. You go out to a place where you know or suspect there's water, you dig a well, you camp there for a time. When it's time to move on, you go to the next place where you know or suspect there's a bit of water, you dig a well, you camp there for a time. Now Abraham's wells basically were like, the dots on an Indiana Jones style map showing his entire journey from where he was to where he wound up. So those having been filled in, well, it kind of makes sense that I'm a little salty about that.
Why would they fill them in?
Honestly, I don't know. Maybe just as kind of a screw you to Isaac, because, well, Isaac.
Maybe they were afraid they'd be cursed or something if they used his wells, because Everything coming along with him seemed to be bad news for them.
Yeah, there's been a lot of bad news coming out of the tents of Abraham these days. So like I could understand that interpretation. Yeah. There's not a lot of reason given for that. The Old Testament seems to present us with an image of because they were dicks. So maybe it doesn't seem to track with what we know of our good buddy Abe, but yeah, people in the old they were complicated people. Maybe he was pissed. Maybe yeah, like he's kind of been through a lot here. So who knows? There really is no clear explanation. Suffice it to say, the wells were filled in, and whether it was Abimelech or not, and I don't know. It might have just been the fact that they were wells in the desert and wind is a thing. I don't know. So in any case, he goes out, he digs some more wells, he gets in fights with folk until he finally digs a well that no one bitches about. And that's pretty much where we wind up. All right. So after he gets this well, he moves on to verse 23. From there, he went up to Beersheba, and that very night the Lord appeared to him, said, I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you and will bless you and make your offspring numerous for my servant Abraham's sake. So he built an altar there, called on the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants dug a well. Beersheba is an old place. We've been there before. This is narrative moving along, and I am basically dodging fruit by telling you that. Anyway, then Abimelech went to him from Gerar with Athuzah, his advisor, and Phicol, the commander of his army. Okay. Isaac said to them, why have you come to me?
I'm waiting to see where this is. I'm just waiting to see where this is going.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Isaac said to them, why have you come to me, seeing that you hate me and have sent me away from you? They said, we see plainly that the Lord has been with you. So we say, let there be an oath between you and us, and let us make a covenant with you, so that you will do us no harm, just as we have not touched you and have done you nothing but good and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord. So he made them a feast, and they ate and drank. In the morning they rose early and exchanged oaths, and Isaac set them on their way, and they departed from him in peace. The same day Isaac's servants came to him and told him about the well they had dug, and said to him, we have found water. He called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is Beersheba to this day.
Didn't we just get from... Oh, so that's just this, the origin of why they call it that. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, that all pretty much... I didn't jump in there because that all pretty much explained itself.
Yeah, pretty much. And I got to be honest, can you blame him? Like,
no, it actually seems really smart. Like, get him out of my country. Like, he can leave. He can go find his own place. He's clearly capable of being his own king. I'm king here. Please go somewhere and be king somewhere else.
Yeah. And once he's a good distance away,
and peaceful travels, no shade, just please leave.
Once they get a good,
and then eventually once he gets resettled, Abimelech is like, all right, come on, let's go make a pact with him, and then we'll never have to deal with this guy again.
I'm going to put my Wayoon hat on, and we're going to go make a non-aggression pact. Old school Deep Space Nine joke for those of you who don't follow. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, this is like pretty standard stuff, and it is, again, another incidence of kind of, to be blunt about it, comparative intelligence. Like, you've got Isaac who's like, yeah, she's my sister, let me get a hand on that. And then on the other hand, you have Abimelech who's like, yeah, okay, you're definitely too powerful. Let's get you out of here and make a very carefully negotiated oath and covenant with you so that your God doesn't burn me to death. Like, Abimelech is
He's been in charge for like a minute too, hasn't he? Abimelech's got to be like up there.
Yeah, like, we'll get to it much later if this series endures, but like, we love to talk a good game about the wisdom of Solomon, but honestly, Abimelech is one of the wiser kings we come across. Solomon's kind of a dork.
Solomon's kind of a dork, Pastor Don.
That's me being generous. I have a lot of very pointed things to say about Solomon, which we will get to in the full course of time. But right now, yeah, Abimelech is no dummy here. Like, he knows what's up, and he knows, like, the concept of a unified singular God is not common in the region yet. Ur of Mesopotamia fleetingly deals with the idea for a while, but like, it's not historically big in the region. So it's understandable that Abimelech would see their God and not assume he's the God, but definitely assume he's a God to be reckoned with. And that's like, for your own deductions, that's pretty sweet. Like, that's pretty smart to look at the God of another tribe and be like, yeah, I don't want to screw with that guy. Particularly
Well,
when
and
you
wasn't it fairly common practice to believe in multiple gods at the time? Like, this is the god of this area, and this is the
we
god of over
talked
here.
about this back when Abraham first took off. Like monotheism was a relatively new concept. Polytheism was very much the law of the land. So recognizing the existence of multiple gods, of course, that wasn't like a surprise. It is, however, somewhat surprising for Abimelech to be shrewd enough to say, yeah, I definitely recognize there are other gods, and I recognize that I don't want to screw with this one in particular, even though he's not mine. Like, that assumption is somewhat rarer. Usually, there are multiple gods, but mine is my favorite, and I'm going to stick by this one for whatever reason. For Abimelech to say, yeah, your God's pretty worrisome as well, so why don't you go ahead and go all the way over there and take your sister wife with you? Like, that's smart, and a level of smart we don't normally see in this time and place. So it is, you're right, it's definitely worth noting.
I just don't remember him from like all my years in church as this noteworthy character, and I find myself fascinated with Abimelech now.
I know, right? Like,
he's been in it a lot.
Yeah, like, he's been a major character for several chapters now, in a way that we don't normally broach in Sunday school. Like, when we talk about Jacob and Esau and Abraham during this period, we don't typically discuss how prevalent Abraham is in this period. Or I mean, Abimelech, how prevalent he is during this period. Like, it's normally when he's mentioned, it's just kind of a vague adversary for Abraham and Isaac, but like, no, he really wasn't. Like, he wasn't particularly adversarial. He kind of Abraham and Isaac were adversarial. But yeah, no. And this is a good perception test for us as Christians and people of faith going forward. Like, we're often brought up to see certain individuals either in our history or in our modern era as being adversarial and problematic and evil. But if we actually look at it, they're like, no, actually, they probably had a point. Like, it's rare to encounter someone who is a mustache twirling Salvador Dali looking, Captain Proton villain. Yes, I brought in multiple deep cuts there. If you figure them all out, I'll give you a cookie. Anyway, yeah, you don't see people like that. That's not a thing that exists in humankind. And being able to look back on this and recognize, yeah, actually, Abimelech was probably more in the right here than Isaac or Abraham is important.
All right, we've got 2 verses left, and I'm like, oh, we're not going to have anything to talk about. We've got something to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to. Ready for these last 2 verses?
Yeah.
All right. When Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Basma, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah.
So he took 2 wives and then went and fucked around with his brother.
Yep, pretty much it. So we're getting here. This is what we call.
He did like, I don't know. That birthright business still rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, for those of you who are regular viewers of our episodes, this is what we call epic foreshadowing, because next episode we're going to be talking about the back and forth between Jacob and Esau around the death of Isaac. So like, this is laying the groundwork for what's coming in the next chapter, which is going to be Esau and Jacob fuck with each other constantly until one of them gets like a major problem. So that's where we're going. This is where we're going. This is our compass point into the next chapter. Also, by the way, I know it's a side note. I know it's a tiny point, but for all of you evangelicals and conservatives out there who are arguing for a biblical definition of marriage, Esau went and got 2 of the damn things. So, biblical marriage, right?
Was Esau still following like the one God?
Presumably. I mean, there's have not yet been any indications of a change or shift in faith here. And I don't think we see that. We know that God will continue the line of Abraham through Isaac, because that's how that's going to go. But that even though Esau goes up, he becomes the founder of the Edomites, I believe. There's no indication that, at least in moving out from them, that he shifts religion at all. Like, there may be more of that later, but right now, no, there's no indication that Esau worships a different god or has changed his faith or belief practices at all. He's just the jock to Jacob's not jock. So, that'll be we're going to dig into that more in the next episode.
Since he's going to be coming back into play a lot, is that the pronunciation of it? Is it Esau? I always thought it was Esau.
Esau, like the pronunciation of Hebrew is in broad strokes similar to Japanese. So Esau would probably be the way I would pronounce it. Just looking at it, I'd want to look at the actual Hebrew text of it too. Which, you know what, we've got an extra minute. Why don't I do that? Let me bring it up here and we will look at it and see what it is.
While he's pulling this up, I've been joking around about doing that for a while. But here's your house plant of the day. This is my alocasia. It has not grown since I got it, but it seems happy enough. So, and it needs cleaning.
He's a pretty plant.
Hey.
All right, so let's bring it up here.
And yes, there are some wilting little baby spider plants in the bottom of it because I found them around the house and just shoved them into a plant pot because that's what happens when you keep spider plants.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Hebrew now. It's literally Esav or Esau, like the last letter. Hebrew is weird because it's got a character that's both a V and a U sound at the same time, depending on context. But in this context, I would say it's Esau. So yeah, that seems about right. Esau is probably as close to accurate as we can get with English anyway.
Okay, good to know.
All right. So for those of you still following along, I think that's the end of this episode. So you've seen your epic foreshadowing of what's coming next. We're going to get the whole stolen blessing thing and Isaac's going to die and, you know, all that fun stuff. So in the meantime, yeah, Discord's where we're doing the stuff. We've got Bible studies that are popping off and getting ready to go. We got a brand new video/podcast series, which is limbering up to get ready to come out. It's either out now or will be out soon. So I'm not going to spoil it, but you should go looking for it. It's going to be a fun one. In the meantime, we've got Bible studies galore. We've got our Discord server, which is the center of our community. We've got stuff popping off here in Japan, regular monthly worship service that's happening. And most importantly, if you want to do any other one thing to help us out, you can do the thing that Courtney tells you to do, or in general, just do whatever she tells you to do, but mostly this one group of things.
Like, share, and subscribe.
That's the thing. And also comment, which is very helpful too.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to be a lunatic, in which case maybe but you know what?
Let it go. Let it go.
Hey, I do not like evangelical lunatics commenting on my page, but you know, if you're going to be in good
going
faith,
to happen. So if you're
going
going
to
to moderate
happen.
or comments yourself, you're going to have to get used to
Yeah,
it.
I know. I just have so much to do. I don't like moderating all this stuff. But you know what happens? So go ahead, get in there, get in the comments, get in the discussion, and tell us what you think and why I'm crazy and why I'm probably going to hell, because you'd be surprised how often I get that.
And if you're interested in moderating our YouTube channel,
yeah,
please get a hold of me on our Discord channel, because
Yeah.
Don apparently needs to stop.
Yeah, well, you know, we don't get a lot of comments, but when it does happen, it does happen. Anyway, take a break this week, have some fun, rest yourself, and we will see you on the next episode of Back to Basics, which will be in at least 1 week. See you later.
Bye.